According to the World Health Organization, there are around 260 million people who have depression and over 700,000 die because of suicide each year. In the Philippines, there are 5.3% or an estimated 17 million who have experienced depressive disorder. Knowingly, Filipinos as the massive users of internet, are they able to use the term depression in their sentences? I am Aaron Palempangan and with my partner Brad Balisay, we have developed a research namely sensationalizing the term depression in the current millennial lingo. Next slide.
Okay, so for the introduction, language has always been an effective mode of communication, and it is interesting to investigate how a term used in the millennial lingo, specifically depression, can affect the perspective and understanding of a population. Hence, the necessity for our study, that will focus on the linguistic aspect of understanding how millennials use the term depression in the current millennial lingo and how it can affect their perception about a serious health condition, which is depression.
For the background of the study, as the prevalence of the usage of the term depression in the current millennial lingo continues in the Philippines, there's a high probability that the researcher will find millennials who use the term depression to express themselves to the public. With this in mind, the researchers, although they are part of the Gen Z, also adapt the millennial lingo and use the term depression, showing its influence to the language of other generations. Moreover, the fear, isolation, grief, and other personal problems brought by the pandemic caused a 25% increase in the cases of depression in the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the occurrences increases, the researchers expect that the usage of the term depression will also be heightened. Thus, the researchers were inspired to investigate further the sensationalization of the term depression in the current millennial lingo to help millennials understand how the misuse of the term depression and to inform the society about the usage of depression in the current millennial lingo. Next slide.
For the statement of the problem, our study aims to address the problem when it comes to sensationalizing the term depression among millennials. Specifically, it will answer the following questions. So, for a general question, why and how the term depression is sensationalized in the current millennial lingo? And for the specific question, we have here determining the meaning of depression in the current millennial lingo, the ability of the millennials to differentiate depression from other mental and emotional burdens, and what are the different ways millennials use the depression in a sentence.
So for our conceptual framework for the input, the meaning of depression in the current millennial lingo, the ability of millennials to differentiate depression from other emotional or mental burdens, and third is the different ways millennials use the term depression in a sentence. And for our process, explanatory research and data gathering procedure. Third, semi-structured open-ended guide questions. Fourth one is the one-on-one interview. Fifth is data analysis. And lastly is result and interpretation. So we have come to an output of define the meaning of depression in the current millennial lingo, determine the ability of millennials to differentiate depression from other emotional or mental burdens, determine the different ways millennials use the term depression in a sentence, and lastly, understood how and why the terms depression is sensationalized in the current millennial lingo. The figure shown above is an input process output model which provides an overview of the framework of the study. Next slide.
So for the scope and limitation, the participants of the study will be millennials. So they will be born from 1981 to 1996. Other people below or above this birth year are not included, and it will not discuss further about depression as a clinical condition, but rather how people use this term in a sentence or a conversation. So more on linguistics. The personal experience of the millennials in using the term depression are within the scope. There will be a total of 12 respondents made up of 6 males and 6 females, and the study will will not consider any other places rather than Sampaloc, Manila for the methodology.
So for our research design, the study used oral and non-numerical data, making it a qualitative research. According to Crossman 2019, a qualitative research uses and collects data that are non-numerical. The nature of the research is explanatory because it seeks to explain and find an answer about the causes and reasons that make a person act in a certain situation. This research also included information from different sources and gathered data to support the ideas. This research deepens the understanding of the readers and provides solutions regarding the wrong perception of the millennials about depression.
Okay, so for the respondents of the study, the population of the study is composed of millennials living within the area of Sampaloc, Manila. The sample will include, again, a total of 12 participants, wherein 6 of them are female and the other are male. And the sample here must have this criteria. They must be within the range of 26 to 41 years old, so they must be a millennial. They must be residing within Sampaloc, Manila. And third, they must have an experience of using the term depression. So the respondents must possess the stated qualities to be valid to participate in the study.
For our research local, the interviews that will be conducted for the study will take place within the area of Sampaloc, Manila. The specific location and the time will be tailored to the availability and preference agreed by the researchers and respondents.
The data gathering procedure, we will be using a semi-structured open-ended interview to gather substantial information efficiently through the guide questions developed. So here are the following procedures. The researchers constructed the instrument for data gathering, and they will ask the research advisor to validate these questions. They will conduct pilot testing to at least 5 participants. And then after conducting the pilot testing, the researchers will retrieve the instrument for data gathering. After the data gathering, the researchers apply the revision and tweaks that can improve the instrument. And the researchers will now proceed to get the data gathering of the actual sample, which is the millennials, and document the interview for documentation, and of course making sure that there is the consent of the participants, and then they will be able to proceed to data analysis and interpretation.
For the sampling technique used in the study is criterion sampling. Criterion is a type of sampling that selects respondents according to a specific criteria created by the researchers. So, with respect to the research being conducted, an individual must have all the qualities um, that were provided in the criteria for him or her to become a participant of the study. This technique will be utilized to identify the sample for the population by looking for millennials who has an experience of using the term depression. Hence, the needed sample for the study, which are millennials who uses the term depression and lives within the area of Sampaloc, Manila, will be distinguished.
So for the research instrument, we have here the guide questions for the one-on-one interview. So first we have here how you describe the term depression in the current millennial lingo. Uh, Describe your feelings when you use the term depression, and what do you think about the ways millennials use the term depression. So the first 3 questions is more focused on the first question of the statement of the problem, and uh, the fourth question all the way to the fifth question is more on their ability to differentiate depression to other emotional and mental burden. And the questions number 6 to 8 will be more focused on identifying, determining the different ways that millennials use the term depression. So,
Moving on to our ethical consideration, So the researchers assured that all the data gathered will be treated with confidentiality. The respondents will be treated with respect and fairness. The participation of the respondents is voluntary with informed consent. Moreover, the participants would remain anonymous as the researchers publish this study. Lastly, the answer of the participants would only be used for the purpose of this study and would not be exposed to the public. So, that's all. Thank you.